Hello and welcome to my little experience video. I'm Andy, your host for this channel, and today I'm gonna talk about my first 2-day fast, 48 hours of fasting. And first I want to answer the question of why am I doing this? I'm pretty much always interested in trying new things, and I've never tried a 48-hour fast. I've done several 24-hour fasts, which are not that exciting. But still, if you never have done it, got something to try there too. And yeah, another thing is that I do have a little bit of a problem with overeating, with emotional eating. And I thought, let's just see what the what the fasting does or might not do with my mind and body. And the last thing is, I also have from I guess the last 1 or 2 years of eating too much, and not just eating too much food per serving, but also eating too frequently without really having big enough breaks in between. And I do indeed do intermittent fasting every once in a while, but in general it's like when I feel like hunger, I just go and eat. So I developed a little bit of a belly. I will show a drawing or picture right here, and I saw a video from What I've Learned. It's a YouTube channel, really good, check it out. I'll link it in the descriptions of the benefits of fasting. And yeah, let's get into the experience. It was very usual for me to have the most amount of hunger around the 5 to 6 hour mark after my last serving of food, which was 2 p.m. exactly 2 days ago. And from there on, I was sitting in the train going from southern Styria, which is in Austria, back to my hometown Vienna, and that was where I had the biggest hunger, so to speak. And I was contemplating, should I really do a 48-hour fast? It's gonna be probably pretty difficult, but I managed not to touch the roasted and salted cashew nuts. I left them inside the pocket, and I committed to the 48 hours of not eating. After the 5 to 6 hour mark, the hunger usually, or pretty much always, goes downhill and stays at a level where it's actually not even hunger. So I'm just totally fine. So that was the first day, and the second day, which was yesterday, was different. It was different. I did a lot of work on that day. In the morning, yes, I did have a little bit of hunger, not exactly when I woke up, but more when midday came, or rather like from 10 o'clock in the morning to maybe 2 o'clock. I had like a little bit more hunger, and which is, I guess, pretty normal because I usually eat around that time. And then it went down again, but it didn't go away completely. I had this feeling in my stomach all the time, and it was difficult for me to refer to it as hunger. It sometimes felt like hunger, or had the interpretation of hunger. But since I was working a lot during that time, basically 7 hours straight with just half an hour of a break, I had that feeling a lot. It kind of felt a little bit like my stomach was kind of like, how do you call this, contracting itself. And yeah, that was just like a feeling that was there. It was strange because I usually don't have this type of feeling, or the interpretation is there that I'm hungry or whatever it might be. And yeah, I sat with it, and to get through the working, I had my dips in concentration, and to get around that, I licked some tobacco, some special tobacco. It's Ambil, they call it. I got it back when I was in South America, and it's some really dark, dark paste, and you put it back basically on your left hand's smallest finger. There's a special reason for that, which I will not go into right now, but you lick it and it's good for focus. So during working, I got around fizzy mind with this little supplement, and in the night when we finished work, I also stopped licking the Ambil, and my focus, it really was a little bit like all over the place. It was like it did its own thing. I was like I was just jumping around, and not really under my conscious control. And yeah, but my head felt really open, which was interesting. It was a very interesting mix of positive and negative effects. So I had a jumpy mind, which was out of my control, but at the same time my awareness, my head just felt really open and also kind of calm at the same time. And that went on until I went to bed. Oh yes, and in the evening my thoughts were definitely orbiting around food. I had a lot of thoughts about food when we stopped working. The hunger wasn't really that big. It occasionally felt like hunger. Yes, I'm hungry, but most of the time it was still the same, just that contracting feeling of the stomach that I had. And when I went to bed, another interesting thing was that I had slightly psychedelic effects in my mind, which is not that unusual for me. Like, it's almost every night or every second night that I kind of like, it's like a very small amount of magic mushrooms, it feels to me. But this time it was increased. It felt like a little bit more. So I laid down and everything was a little bit like closed eye visions, and the peripheral field of my vision was like starting to move, but also like if I look somewhere and just let my gaze just rest loosely, also stuff will like start moving, and it was more than usual. Another thing that was present during the day was that my body felt rather cold. It wasn't that hot outside, really. It was just maybe 12 to 15 degrees. The sun did not shine in the room. I didn't heat the room, but I did feel that my body felt colder than usual. I was like freezing a little bit, like constantly actually. I should have put on another blanket. I don't know why I didn't do it. I don't know. Just didn't do it. Stupid me. And another very present thing which really came on today very strong, just like in the morning, because I waited until 2 p.m. to eat my new meal, and before, but also the last 1 to 2 hours, I had extremely thick, or how would you say, in Vipassana they call it, for example, gross sensations. And it was very interesting because I actually just listened to a podcast from Aubrey Marcus today, where he mentioned that fasting can also trigger old trauma that is stored within your body and your mind, since this is always one thing in your body mind. And I felt like this is like the stuff that I have known from using psychedelics when I know that trauma is coming up, or also from breath work when this really tight and really gross, like heavy sensation, it feels tense, and they manifest in the body. And I also had like memories popping up from my childhood, and that also is very likely related to what happened before I started the fasting. I visited my mother, and she was on holidays in South Styria, where I just came from when I started my 48-hour fast. And spending almost 3 days with my mother was not an easy thing for me, and it triggered some really heavy feelings, which we also went into in a conversation, which was another very difficult thing to pull off, since we have some rather drastically different views on some topics, especially healing, personal development, and like really going into the past and trying to find out why we are the way we are, and that is very often like not our natural authentic self, but that we are playing out patterns that we develop as protective mechanisms to difficulties and traumas, really like things that were just too much for our systems, and we had to find a coping mechanism. Another big story. So basically I felt those really thick sensations coming up that were always related to some past trauma that I observed during breathwork, psychedelics, meditation retreats, yada yada yada. So to me it felt like this 48-hour fasting triggered some further or made the room free for stuff to come up. So I didn't have an easy time, definitely, the evening of yesterday and also today. Overall, it was not terrible, but it also was not comfortable, and it was like a little bit of a back and forth. Also, it was full moon time. Something to might consider have played into the cards in this little whatever is happening with me. Coming to the point where I was going towards the 48-hour mark, I prepared a pretty big meal a couple hours before the fasting ended, and I was surprised that I was actually not getting hungry when I saw and smelled the food, and even during preparing I did not get more hungry. It was still that same sensation in my belly, which just felt like contraction. So I prepared a big meal, and at 2 p.m. in the afternoon of today's day, I had a very big lunch, and it was very delicious. The food tasted better than it usually does, and it was a pleasure to put all that yummy food into my mouth and belly, and I appreciated it more than I usually do. And I caught myself being like very fast at eating, which I often do, and I have to consciously slow down myself to enjoy the moment more when I eat this delicious food, because food is really just, I think it's such an amazing thing that we have that opportunity every single day to get that pleasure from food and to enjoy food, and then I'm just like rushing it down, and it's really a waste of this opportunity, I think. So I catch myself being fast at eating also today, and I calm myself down, and I actually got into slow eating pretty good and really appreciated the moment. It tasted amazing. I had those thoughts of, wow, like this is like literally the energy that we put into ourselves that keeps us running. Especially I noticed that after 20 to 30 minutes after I finished my meal, I got really energized. I felt how my mood was literally bettering itself a lot, and I also felt like my sex drive would come back, which I didn't have at all, especially on the second day of the fasting. And I felt like putting on some music and dancing and had that energy, which lasted for, I don't know, 1 or 2 hours. I also tried to go skateboarding because I was so energized, and I felt like, yeah, I want to experience life right now and make something out of it with that good energy that is coming from that amazing food, really. And then I went out, but my belly was so damn full that I couldn't really like skate, and I just sat in the sun a little bit and relaxed. And slowly my mood went down again, and thick sensations came back again. And that's the stuff that I was dealing with ever since the sensations came back. Also very worth noting was that after eating I didn't feel cold anymore. Like in the morning I still felt cold, but when I had the meal and the energy started building up again, I didn't feel cold anymore, which is very interesting. Yeah, I think that's pretty much it for now. A little update on what is happening to me and how a 48-hour fast impacted me in the situation of having a little bit of an intense moment with my mother. And overall, I see it as a good thing that we came together and crashed a little bit, but we were like able to talk it out. You know, we sit down and we give our best to speak about it respectfully and try to see and hear the other person. Still, there's just like, it's not always easy. So interesting that this immediately happened after like we parted ways, which was like actually more or less directly after we had that food at 2 p.m. 2 days ago. And yeah, I might write a little bit of an update in the description section if I feel like it. If you're interested, you can go read it. Might be like tomorrow or in 2 days or whatever in retrospect, what I will feel about it. And I thank you very much for listening to me and hope you have a wonderful day. Namaste.